You ever eaten a grapefruit before?
Nope.
Okay, what you do, you take this like that. There's the end and there's the end. Okay, and you cut it in half. And then you eat out the sections with a spoon. I'll show you in a minute. And if it's really sweet, it's delicious. And if it's a little bit sour, not so delicious. But that'll work. Cut it right like that. And we eat it, cut it with a knife, and we eat it out with a spoon. That's grapefruit. And when they're really big in Thailand, and they're dry inside, you call them pomelos. And they're like that, aren't they? Yeah. Okay.
Bigger than that.
Big, yeah, pomelos. And those are dry, and you peel them, and you eat the sections. These are wet and sweet from Texas, and you cut them in half and eat them with a spoon. That's grapefruit. This is Dan and Vivian Harvey, and they've come up to Grants Pass from Medford. And your book, you're doing a book about being a missionary kid and getting left at the residential schools. And so, and you also have interviews in the book about indigenous children getting taken to the residential schools in Africa. And do you go any other places in your book besides Africa, or it's pretty much just about the Guinea situation in?
The first half of my book covers the missionary child situation, which is my experience, and the second half of the book actually merges with the Native American residential school experience, and I have probably somewhere around 10 personal testimonies.
Okay, for the American residential school.
Native American.
And so that's where you have the Native Americans. That's where you have the connection with Kevin and Ed over the Canadian schools. Okay. And so you found out about aka.org through Ray. Is that right?
Actually, it was through Gabriel Giffen.
Oh, Gabriel.
He had come across the movie.
Okay.
And he lives in Jerusalem, and he works with indigenous people around the world.
He's an Orthodox rabbi.
And he sent the email to us and said, if you haven't seen this movie, it'd probably be a good movie to watch.
Okay, so I don't know if I've talked to him. So maybe you can cover that base again and get my email to him so I can tie up that end and get to know him.
Yeah.
And I spent a year in Israel. But anyway, so you're doing this story called The Missionary Myth, The Children Pay the Price. Okay. And it's about your experiences and then the indigenous experiences. And have you been to the aka website?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Have you ever been to Thailand, or do you know any? Did you know about the aka before?
No, I
Not
didn't.
before Gabriel sent us the email and we watched the movie.
Okay, and then have you been through the website since then and looked at any of the other content?
Yes.
Okay, did you see I Kidnapped My Family? Did you see that movie? Did you watch that?
Which one was that?
I Kidnapped My Family. It's in the links
Yes,
on
I
the
did.
right. You
I
watched
did
it?
see that.
Okay, so you have a pretty good idea of what the work is that we do. And what is your feeling from talking to indigenous children that were taken to the residential schools and what they went through? What do you feel about American missionaries taking aka children away, like Lori and Paul, or like Richard Hoagland, taking aka children away to these residential schools? What do you think the damage is for those children, if any?
The damage is permanent if the children can't get back home, and it's a criminal act that should be prosecuted. Absolutely.
Okay, and so do you feel that, what do you feel is criminal about it?
Stealing, kidnapping children from their families.
Now, like say if they get somebody to go in and convince the family that they're going to give them a wonderful education through a
It's
broker,
deception.
they talk them into this, as I call it, talk them into it. And Hoagland now, he takes just baby girls, like 5, 6 years old age, and then he high grades them for which is the smartest. And then there's CGT, and there's a lot of missions that are doing the same thing, and they're doing them in the hundreds of children per mission.
Well, we've seen in the contacts we have with Native Americans in this country and through the MK Safety Net site with many missionary kids that were in boarding schools in various places all around the world, is this is a systematic endemic problem
It is.
that's worldwide.
It's
And,
a cultural problem.
It is.
The whole business with missionaries, because what does a sexual predator do is they put themselves in position where they can be with children. And if they're overseas in a boarding school, there's no accountability, so they have free reign.
Right.
And so they look for these opportunities. It's getting more difficult in the United States to find those opportunities, although you also find it in Sunday school leaders and people in churches that work with children. You see the same pattern, like the same thing with the Catholic priests. And so it's a systematic endemic problem that needs to be addressed on a holistically if any change is going to be made. And I think the way that can happen is if the separate voices that are uncovering these things in isolated places get together and form a larger voice.
Yes.
Right.
And
We've got to.
that's because everybody thinks they're alone.
Right.
So on the MK Safety Net site, missionary kids, they thought they're the only ones suffering. Or say somebody that went to a boarding school somewhere in Kamloops in Canada, they thought they were the only ones. Or the ones in the Navajo reservation, they're the only ones. But they're
Isolation is
not.
a major factor.
They're not the only ones. And I think there needs to be a larger voice to tie everything together.
No, so if I said that is an agenda, is a way of operating for our project, we say that we don't want any children removed from their families because it creates an insecure environment for the children. It takes them away from the safety of their parents. And based on that alone, we see it as being wrong, because once it happens, then any kind of abuse can go on because there's no checks and balances. Like this Hoagland guy, Richard Hoagland from Eugene, he doesn't have anybody auditing him or seeing what he is or is not doing or how those little girls are treated. And so there's no oversight. And then the kids are also losing their grip on the mountain land, so their future's being forfeited by getting moved to those schools. So would you see that as a reasonable or unreasonable agenda to say, look, just don't take the kids away at all?
I think parents are responsible for raising their children, and parents will do the best jobs. If people want to help people, indigenous people in poor nations, then help the parents and give them the resources that they need to do a better job. But don't take the children away. That is
Well,
just
and don't
horrible.
come with false pretenses saying
Right.
you're going to help the children get educated, and then steal the children and steal them away in the night. You can't do that. If that happened in the United States, it would be.
And they said, you have a permit, you have licensing, you have a psychologist, what is your, the state's allowed to do in extreme cases, take away kids, but if you tell the parents you're taking your kid, your ethnic child, your Native American child, we're taking him to a Protestant school in Salem, people be up in arms, they go, what are you doing? This already happened once, we're not going to do it again. So it's like I say to people, how come there's not family values for indigenous children?
Yeah.
So the missions who always tout family values go and take the families apart. And that's what we have happen in Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai. So anyway, I just wanted to ask you those couple questions for our project that we're doing here, and thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little cowboy.
Yeah.
Cowboy with the red boots and the red hat. Gotta get these spurs. Just yeah, those real spurs you got there. Wow, spurs, man, spurs. How about that cowgirl? Up you, cowgirl la. Yeah. And thanks to May Trucking for helping us out.